Howdy, I'm Grey Pilgrim. Well, I'm sitting around reading a book, interesting book too. It's called The Mannlicher military rifle. And this is all about the invention of one Ferdinand von Mannlicher, who was he was an Austrian and under the dual empire, and he developed a rifle. It became, well, there's many rifles he developed. Basically, it became the M95. Now, this is not an M95. This is an M95-30. What's the difference? Well, after World War I, the M95 was the rifle used by the Austro-Hungarian Empire in World War I, and they lost. So after the war, they had to make reparations. So the commission basically confiscated all of them and gave them to people like Czechoslovakia and the Balkan states, the new country of Bulgaria. I mean, many people ended up with them. The Hungarians and Austrians also used them after the war as their particular rifle. But what they did is they rechambered them. These were originally chambered in 8x50 rimmed, which was a round nose, large bullet, small and clunky round to use. But they rechambered these to 8x56 rimmed, which is a much more powerful Spitzer shell. And this one, okay, these were both made in at FEG and Steyr. Steyr was in Austria and FEG was in Hungary. Remember, in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, when you built anything, you had to build one of each, one in Austria and one in Hungary, because, you know, nationalism. Well, after the war, FEGs trimmed down what they had and made these carbines out of them. Now, the main difference between this and a later rifle is it's called a Zugzug by the Austrians, because that motion, it's not a turn bolt, it's a straight pull. And that sound to an Austrian ear sounded like Zugzug. So that's what they called them. The Italians had a different name. But basically it's a rotating bolt, but the bolt rotates internally on a swivel track. When you pull back, straight pull. And it's an interesting system. It's a bear to put this bolt back together after you pull it out of the gun. You need a US dime to hold the bolt. Odysee speaks of this in one of his CN arsenals on it. And when I had to take it apart to clean it, that's exactly where I went to find out how to do it. Anyway, and it showed the magic of Ferdinand Mannlicher because it used one other thing that was very uncommon. This is a clip, a real clip, not a magazine. This is a clip. And what this does, you line up bullets in this thing, shove it down into here. There's no feed lips in this at all. The feed lips are right here on this clip. And what happens is your shells are one at a time loaded into the machine and fed to it one at a time. And when it runs out, as you can see, it falls out of this hole in the base. So you put another clip in and continue firing. It's a very interesting system. Well, after the war, actually before the war, another country bought this same system and used it on their rifles. And this is a Mannlicher-Carcano from Italy. It's a turn bolt, but it uses, this is a Mannlicher-Carcano clip, and uses exactly the same system. I also have, oh, you get back over here, this, which is a Mannlicher-Carcano carbine, that also uses the same system. So, you know, this thing's been through hell and back, but I got it real cheap, so I'm not going to complain. I just wanted it, you know, as a version of this particular kind of rifle. Anyway, this book does discuss all of these. It mainly discusses the Mannlicher ones, but the Carcanos were made under contract, and they were well made. They're a good rifle. I don't know if you remember, but this rifle in particular There was a fellow photographed like this, holding it up, after Oswald supposedly used it to shoot Kennedy. This one's in 6.5 Carcano, which is an interesting cartridge in itself. It also uses a progressive twist rifling. It's the last rifle, I think, that actually used progressive twist. But it also used the Mannlicher System. And I find the Mannlicher System fascinating. I find all firearms-related content fascinating, but when you're looking at systems, rifle systems or firearm systems, you look at how they work, the gadget factor on them, how they're actually put together. And it all started with the M95. Well, actually it was an M80 too, but this was the gun that was used in all the wars between Italy and Austria. And by the way, because of World War I, you're not going to find very many unadapted M95s. The only ones you will find is World War I cast-offs, junk that went to the junkyard or dug out of the garden or something. There's a guy who has a channel called Backyard Ballistics. He's Italian, and he found one and restored it. That's what his channel is all about, is restoration of ancient firearms. And other than that, you're not going to find them like this. And I think he was complaining that he couldn't find the right ammunition for it and had to trim down some other stuff and adapt something to make the thing work. And he couldn't quite make the leap for the round from the stripper clip into the feeding area of the chamber, and it kept jamming on him because it was not quite right. But that's because the 8x56 is hard to find these days. I have some, but the 8x50 is impossible to find. No one makes it anymore. And but I like specifically the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the weapons of that. I mean, I have both a 1907 Ross-Steyr and a 1912 Steyr Hahn, the cavalry and army pistols, respectively, of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I just find them fascinating. Weird systems, weird and complex, well, gadget factor, I mean, and this is just so well made for what it is. The Mauser is, in my opinion, a much more sophisticated system, but this one's pretty cool. This one is Hungarian, by the way. It started out as Steyr, therefore Austrian, but it ended up in Hungary and was used as a carbine in Hungary, and that's where the 95/30, 1930, comes in. Chambered in 8x56 and shortened down. I forget how long the actual M95 was, but it was your typical huge, long military rifle of that era. Anyway, just something I've been looking into lately because, it interests me. If it interests you, well, there's a like button down there, and, you can subscribe and leave a comment. You guys aren't commenting much anymore. I wonder if YouTube has turned off everybody looking at me or something, because my views are way down. I know they don't like GunTube channels at all these days, but I'm more historian than I am shooter. And yes, I do occasional range videos, but I don't ask where to buy stuff or mention it, and I certainly don't advocate for any kind of naughty use of these things. Besides which, mainly I'm into things like this, bolt-action ancient weapons. And I'm not into hunting rifles. I love old military surplus. They're just really cool, in my opinion. And that's what I do. Anyway, happy trails.